In every generation, food has told the story of survival. Our grandparents and great-grandparents didn't always have plenty, but they had creativity. And with that, they turned scraps into meals that could feed a family. Today, we're looking at 25 forgotten poor man's sandwiches. These weren't gourmet creations. They were born from hunger, thrift, and resilience, and each one carries a slice of history worth remembering. Number 1. Onion sandwich. Few foods capture the grit of working-class America like the onion sandwich. Imagine the early 1900s coal mines of Appalachia, where men carried tin lunch pails down into the dark shafts. Meat was too expensive, vegetables were scarce, but onions, cheap, pungent, and full of vitamins, became a lifeline. The sandwich was brutally simple: 2 slices of bread, a thick cut of raw onion, a pinch of salt and pepper, and if the family was lucky, a smear of butter or lard. The sharp bite wasn't just tolerated, it was embraced. Workers believed onions helped fight coal dust in their lungs, and the powerful smell meant no one else would dare steal your lunch. Children often sprinkled a bit of sugar over the onion to soften its harshness, creating what some jokingly called poor man's caramelized onion. It wasn't luxury, but it was sustenance that stuck with you during long shifts underground. In those mining towns, the onion sandwich wasn't just food. It was fuel, dignity, and a reminder that even the simplest ingredients could keep families alive. Number 2. Fried bologna sandwich. The fried bologna sandwich was working-class comfort food that turned a humble cold cut into something warm and satisfying. Bologna was cheap and easy to find, made from meat scraps pressed into neat slices. When fried in a hot pan, it transformed. The edges curled, the middle puffed up, and the smell filled the kitchen like a real meal. Families often cut a slit in the slice to keep it from curling too much, then laid it on bread with mustard or, if they had it, a slice of cheese. Kids loved the bologna bubble that puffed up while cooking, poking it before it deflated. This sandwich cost pennies, but gave the feeling of a hot homemade lunch. Parents served it for dinner when budgets were tight, and workers carried it in their lunch boxes because it held up well. It was proof that even a cheap cut could feel like a treat with a little heat and creativity. For many families, fried bologna became more than a fallback. It was a taste of comfort on lean days, remembered fondly long after money wasn't as tight. Number 3. Peanut butter and pickle sandwich. The peanut butter and pickle sandwich may sound strange, but it was a lifesaver for families watching every penny. Peanut butter was a cheap source of protein that didn't spoil, while pickles were always on hand in households that canned vegetables from their gardens. Put together, the creamy richness of peanut butter and the sharp tang of pickles created a sandwich that was both filling and refreshing. For children, the crunch of the pickle broke up the monotony of soft bread and spreads. Some families preferred dill pickles for a sour bite, while others used sweet bread and butter pickles to balance the saltiness. Parents liked this sandwich because it stretched simple ingredients into something flavorful without costing much. Workers packed them in lunch bags, and kids took them to school, making it a staple in poor households for decades. While modern tastes may raise an eyebrow, many who grew up with this combination still remember it fondly. It's a perfect example of how thrift forced creativity, and sometimes created flavors that stuck around as comfort food long after hard times had passed. Number 4. Mayonnaise and banana sandwich. The mayonnaise and banana sandwich was a budget-friendly creation especially popular in the South. Bananas became one of the cheapest fruits available thanks to large imports, and mayonnaise was affordable enough to keep in most kitchens. When meat wasn't an option, families turned to this combination for something that was both filling and quick to prepare. Sliced bananas were laid on bread spread with mayo, making a sandwich that was sweet, tangy, and surprisingly satisfying. Parents served it for school lunches or quick snacks, while workers appreciated it as an easy way to get energy during the day. Some households even sprinkled sugar or drizzled honey to turn it into more of a treat. It wasn't fancy, but it made use of what was available without costing much. Though unusual to modern tastes, many people who grew up with this sandwich still remember it warmly as part of their childhood. It shows how creativity in the kitchen could turn even the strangest pairings into something practical, and in the end, tasty enough to stick around in memory. Number 5. Grilled cheese sandwich. The grilled cheese sandwich may feel like comfort food today, but for poor families, it was born out of thrift and necessity. Bread and cheese were two of the cheapest, most accessible staples in working-class kitchens. A few slices of bread and a bit of cheese could be stretched into a hot, filling meal for the whole family. The magic came from frying the sandwich in butter, lard, or bacon grease until the bread crisped golden brown and the cheese melted inside. It turned a couple of simple ingredients into something that smelled and tasted far more indulgent than it really was. Factory workers and school children alike carried grilled cheese sandwiches because they were quick to make, inexpensive, and satisfying. In many homes, government-issued processed cheese became the key ingredient, melting easily and giving the sandwich its signature gooey center. Some families added tomatoes or onions when they had them, but most of the time it was just bread, cheese, and fat for frying. Despite its simplicity, it became a mealtime favorite that made even the poorest kitchens feel warm and welcoming. The grilled cheese sandwich is proof that the right combination of basics can deliver comfort without costing much. Number 6. Tomato sandwich. The tomato sandwich was a seasonal favorite in poor households, especially during the summer. With gardens producing fresh tomatoes, families who couldn't afford much meat had an endless supply of this cheap and nutritious fruit. Thick slices of tomato, sprinkled with salt and pepper, were layered between bread with either butter or mayonnaise, depending on what was available. The juice soaked into the bread, making the sandwich messy but delicious. In farming families, tomato sandwiches were eaten daily during harvest season, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. They weren't just food, they were a celebration of the garden's abundance. For children, the flavor was unforgettable, sweet, tangy, and refreshing, compared to heavier meals like beans or potatoes. Workers carried them into the fields for quick lunches, appreciating their lightness in the summer heat. While simple, the tomato sandwich gave families a rare sense of variety and freshness when other meals were plain and repetitive. It's remembered today not just as poverty food, but as a taste of summer that brought joy even in lean times. Number 7. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich may be considered a classic now, but it started as poor man's food. Peanut butter was affordable, didn't spoil, and provided much-needed protein, while jelly or fruit preserves were often homemade to stretch the year's harvest. Together, They created a balanced meal that was both filling and flavorful. Families made do with what they had: grape jelly in some areas, apple butter in others, or strawberry preserves when fruit was in season. Parents liked peanut butter and jelly because it was quick to make and kept children satisfied at school. Workers carried it to jobs because it didn't spoil easily. Each bite gave the mix of sweet, salty, creamy, and fruity that made it feel like more than just bread and spread. For poor households, it was affordable comfort that could be made again and again without wearing out its welcome. Over time, PB&J moved beyond poverty into tradition, becoming a lunchbox staple for families of all backgrounds. It shows how survival food can turn into something timeless, still loved by millions today. Number 8. Cucumber Sandwich. The cucumber sandwich was light, cheap, and refreshing, a welcome change from heavier meals in poor households. Families who had gardens often grew cucumbers in abundance, making them an easy go-to ingredient for simple sandwiches. Sliced thin and placed between buttered bread or bread spread with lard, cucumbers offered hydration and crispness during hot days. Salt was usually added, and some families enhanced the flavor with vinegar or dill if they had it. Farm workers carried cucumber sandwiches into the fields, appreciating their cooling effect in the summer sun. For children, they brought a little variety to otherwise repetitive meals of beans, bread, and potatoes. While the English version of cucumber sandwiches was tied to tea-time elegance, the working-class version was all about practicality and survival. It cost almost nothing, but brought freshness to the table. Today, many still remember cucumber sandwiches as a taste of childhood, proof that even the simplest garden vegetables could provide joy. More than just food, they were a reminder that nature often gave poor families their greatest source of comfort. Number 9. Sardine Sandwich. The sardine sandwich was one of the most reliable poor man meals because it was cheap, portable, and full of nutrition. Sardines, usually packed in cans with oil or mustard, were available in nearly every corner store and didn't spoil, which made them a dependable choice for families with little money. All it took was opening a can, spreading the sardines on bread, and adding a sprinkle of salt, onion, or vinegar if those extras were available. Some families mashed the sardines to make the sandwich easier to eat, while others laid them whole across the bread. Working men carried sardine sandwiches in lunch pails to factories, docks, and fields because they provided protein and energy at a fraction of the cost of fresh meat. For immigrant families, especially those from coastal Europe, sardines were a familiar comfort that reminded them of home. Children might not have loved the strong smell, but adults appreciated how filling they were. Many also valued the fact that sardines provided healthy oils and bones soft enough to eat, adding nutrition that was hard to come by. The sardine sandwich was a true poor man's staple, simple, affordable, and nourishing when little else was on the table.